I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, my homies, my brothers, what's poppin'? UFC 281. Oh my goodness. Now before we get into breaking down the card, you already know we go to Money City. The first Money City comment is from Rocky, and Rocky said, "Hey late, love the vids, let's try to populate Money City 2 weeks in a row." Hey, I appreciate anybody that goes back to back, and Rocky said Munoz, Batista, Maverick and the rigged fight with Northern Becker. Hey, that's money. That is money, let's go. A Jumbo is loco with the plus 571, but it cashed. Hadley, Magni, Lemos. Hey, that's some Jumbo money, let's go. Now Falcon said, I think Madsen gets the upset, but the locks, if you want the locks from Falcon, it's Munoz, Hadley, Maverick. It's money, let's go, that's money. An OG of the channel, James, he said, what did you say, James? You said Maverick, Batista, Rodriguez over 1.5. That's Money City. Yes, it is. Let's go. Next Money City comment is my brother at Blood Money MMA, Cody, and he said Jacoby won 100%. But the Money City plays was Maverick and Batista, and he was going to go with Sherman, which, you know, that's a risky fight, but the double on Maverick and Batista, that's money. Connor Jones went Dawson, Maverick, Hadley. It's the Money City. It's the Money City, guys. Let's go. D Money said Munoz, Batista. Hey, no lies. That was easy. That was easy money. My brother, the chef, the king, he said puffing on exotic, feeling hypnotic. Hey, with the bars. Okay. Hamzat smashing Batista, Maverick, Lemos. Oh my goodness. Look at that, even ending the parlay with an underdog. Hey, chef, come on, cooking that up, okay. And we've got Tommy, who is racking up some Money City appearances. Hadley, Munoz, Batista, it hits. Yes, it does, that's money. And the final Money City play, guys, it's gonna be my bet. I didn't get robbed because Batista said, look, it's a round one destination as predicted. That's money. Anybody that wants my bets on UFC 281, the only way to do that is to join my Patreon. The Patreon is super cheap. I'm going to post up the recent performances on Patreon. Real G's know. Real G's know. You also get to interact with me on a daily basis and throughout the whole of the card on Saturday night in my Discord group for $6 a month. The price is super fair, and yeah, I do believe I'm one of the best that does this week in, week out. So yeah, let's get into breaking down UFC 281. Alright, moving into the first matchup on this card, we've got Carlos Ulberg taking on Negumereanu. Kinda surprised this matchup is the first matchup on this card. It is a good matchup. Both of these guys are good at what they do. Carlos Ulberg is essentially a striker, a Muay Thai striker that didn't exactly have a good start to his UFC career. You know, basically went 0 to 100 against Kennedy in his debut. He did nearly stop Kennedy in the first round, but essentially he did gas and basically got dusted. However, if you look at Ulberg's most recent performances against Fabio Sharon and Tafon and Chukwi, the level of composure he showed in those matchups, you know, really controlled those fights. The Fabio Sharon fight may be a little bit boring, but fully in control, especially of the range. Against Tafon and Chukwi, it was the same game plan, you know, look to control the fight, but he was able to get a stoppage in this matchup. On the flip side, Negumereanu, this guy's a tough-nosed Romanian, primarily a wrestler, although he is willing to stand and trade. If you look at the fight that Nick had against Kennedy, he wasn't really able to get Kennedy to the mat, basically had to settle for meaningless control time against the fence. You also take a look at the striking in that matchup, and let's be honest, Kennedy basically butchered Negumereanu, completely butchered him. I do believe that Negumereanu's probably going to struggle with the range on the feet in this type of matchup. You know, probably going to look to push Carlos against the fence, try to use the fence to get the takedown. But we also have to remember that Carlos has that Muay Thai background, so I wouldn't be too shocked if Carlos could be quite nasty in the Muay Thai clinch. You know, really look to land some damage up close if Nick is really pursuing the grappling, you know, really pursuing the clinch. I do believe this matchup is a great matchup to start the card. Striker versus grappler. I'm going to side with the Muay Thai striker, Carlos Ulberg, to essentially dictate the range on the feet, essentially look to play the same type of striking game that his teammate, the champion, Israel Adesanya plays, which is basically a chess match, you know, in striking terms. You do this, I do that. Look to control the striking by controlling the range. And of course, you know, Nick is going to look for takedowns. He's going to look for the clinch against the fence. But Carlos is a pretty big light heavyweight, just like Kennedy. And Nick struggled to get Kennedy to the mat. I think he's probably going to struggle to get Carlos to the mat. So I'm going to side with the Muay Thai striker, Carlos Ulberg, to win this matchup. Moving into a matchup between Julio Arce taking on Montel Jackson. We stay with the same trend here from the fight we just broke down. Striker versus wrestler. Arce being the striker, Montel being the wrestler. Now guys, last week we had an Olympic level wrestler that I didn't pick in Mark Madsen. Some people may know this, some people may not. Montel Jackson was training for the Olympics prior to getting into mixed martial arts. His wrestling is extremely good. So not only does he have the height and reach advantage in this matchup, his ability to get the fight to the mat is absolutely there in this matchup. And it's pretty much there in every matchup. Now on the flip side, Arce is very well rounded. His jiu-jitsu is quality. His boxing and kicking is very good. There's areas of the game that Arce is going to be better than Montel Jackson. But there is going to be one area that he's not going to be better than Montel. And like we just said, that's going to be the wrestling. I do believe there's times where Montel Jackson kind of fatigues in his fights, becomes quite stationary. If Montel Jackson slows down in this matchup, the takedown might not be as easy as what it was in round one. And that could just be because Arce, you know, he's still moving his feet, still moving around the octagon. So it won't be like a technical thing where he's failing to get the takedown because the entries aren't good. He might fail just simply because Arce is still moving. You know, the feet are still moving. And for anyone that like trains at a mixed martial arts gym, you might remember your coaches telling you, look, even if you're tired, I want to see your feet moving. Just move. And that might be the case here. You know, if Montel Jackson slows down, Julio Arce still moving well, still moving the feet. Initially, guys, I was going to just side with the wrestler, Montel Jackson, to just utilize the wrestling advantage. But after rethinking about the matchup, I do believe the underdog is maybe the better spot to play. Assuming that Montel slows down in the middle of the fight and assuming that Arce is still moving the feet and just kind of becomes a problem for Montel in the middle of the fight. So my prediction, I'm going to side with the underdog, Julio Arce, to win this matchup. Moving into a matchup between Mike Trizano taking on Seung Choi. This is probably going to be one of my least confident predictions on this card. I do really want to get this fight right though. You know, I'm looking to get this fight right and I'm going to be interested to watch the matchup. Mike Trizano is a pretty good striker. I've never really had a good read on Mike Trizano. When I pick against him, he seems to win. When I pick for him, he seems to lose. He's just one of these fighters that I can't really seem to get a good read on fight to fight. He did get absolutely dusted by Lucas Almeida, and of course, I did pick Trizano thinking he was technically better, more composed. But man, Lucas Almeida's just so game for a scrap. Clearly. Now, Seung Choi is a Muay Thai striker that I've always been a fan of. Even though there's clearly some weaknesses in the game of Choi, I'm still a fan of this guy. The main weaknesses of Choi would be, firstly, his level of grappling isn't great. It's not terrible, it's just not great. I believe that another weakness would be the head movement. You know, the head movement's not too great. You look at the Culibao fight. Josh Culibao was firing missiles, and it's like the missiles had a magnet for Choi's head. When people think about like head movement, I believe they think about wide motions, you know, moving your head left to right, wide motions. But the best head movement is not a wide motion, you know, it's slight adjustments, you know, consistently. And another weakness of Seung Choi, I guess, would be his chin isn't exactly great, and that's a good reason why the head movement has to be there. Now, I don't only want to mention the weaknesses of Seung Choi, I want to mention a couple positives. His Muay Thai kicks are heavy, powerful, quick, technical, and on top of that, he's a pretty big 145er. Now guys, gun to the head, I'm going to side with the fighter that I've got a pretty decent read on, and the fighter that I'm more of a fan of, and that's going to be Seung Choi. I don't really believe that Trizano can exploit the grappling, considering Trizano is primarily a striker himself. So my prediction is going to be Choi, assuming he can be more effective in the stand-up. So that's going to be my pick. Moving into a matchup between Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Silvana Gomez. Now let's start this breakdown by saying Karolina Kowalkiewicz is nowhere near the fighter she was back in 2016, 2017. She's nowhere near as dangerous anymore. Did she win her last matchup? Yes, she did. Does that mean she's as good as what she was back in her prime? No, it doesn't. Could Karolina's experience help her win this matchup? It could. However, that doesn't really seem to be the case in her last 5 or 6 matchups. Does Karolina just show up for a paycheck like Alexander Gustafsson? Probably. And if you're someone that thinks Karolina is showing up for just a paycheck, obviously it's not safe to bet on a fighter that's just showing up for money. Now on the flip side, you've got Silvana Gomez. This girl is nowhere near as credentialed as Karolina. She hasn't fought the same competition. She hasn't got the same level of kicking. Her jiu-jitsu is good, but hasn't really shown the same type of success with her jiu-jitsu as Karolina. Now despite the resume difference, could she completely dust Karolina? She absolutely could. And that's primarily because Karolina is a shell of her former self. It's not because Silvana's some like rising prospect. Now one advantage that is clearly on the side of Silvana is going to be the punching power. She's evidently a bigger puncher than Karolina, so if she lands clean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Karolina hit the mat. You know, I wouldn't be shocked to see her get dusted. Guys, I'm not going to lie, I was going to side with Karolina because I always have this faith that Karolina can just show up and prove she's still got it. I've always got that faith. And even though I did pick Karolina in her last matchup and she did show up and win, I'm not going to make the faith prediction again. I'm kind of done making that prediction. Alexa Grasso completely teed off on Karolina, and I kind of think Silvana's going to tee off in a similar way. I'm not saying Silvana's like the same level of boxer as Alexa Grasso, because she's definitely not. But I do believe she's just going to tee off. And she might even take Karolina to the mat, look to beat her up on the ground. I kind of wish that I didn't have to break down Karolina's fights anymore. It's kind of painful, but I am done with the faith prediction on Karolina. I'm not going to make that pick. And guys, if I'm wrong with my prediction and Karolina can show us, look, A, don't pick against me with Silvana Gomez. If Karolina can show us that, A, all the credit. But yeah, I'm done picking Karolina. I think she's washed. I think she gets dusted. I'm going to side with Silvana Gomez. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Ottman Azatair taking on Matt Frevola. Now guys, there is something I want to mention for this fight. Like, there's something I want to mention, but before I mention that, let's get into breaking down the matchup. Now, Ottman Azatair is very dangerous. His striking's nasty, primarily the boxing. The hands are clean, efficient, they're money makers. I'll never forget what Ottman done to Teemu Packalem. You know, he hurt that brother so bad, their legs were shaking on the floor. And that's kind of what your girlfriend's legs do when you do a good job, you know what I'm saying? Then Ottman followed up with a beautiful knockout against Karma Worthy, again showing us, look, my hands are dangerous. I can knock you dead. It's a little bit sketchy that Ottman hasn't fought in like 2 years, over 2 years. That is a little bit sketchy. Now guys, the thing I want to mention regarding betting on this matchup, I can see a lot of people betting on Ottman Azatair. Like a lot. Like I've seen a lot of people take the plus money. I've seen a lot of people assuming it's going to be an easy bet. There's so many people on Ottman's side, and when you have like a huge amount of people on one side, specifically an underdog, right? That underdog kind of doesn't do well. Now the thing that kind of scares me is I see what the public sees. You know, I think Ottman's a good pick, a good bet, and that's what scares me. You know, and I see so many people on the same side, and it's like, man, is this going to be a square spot? Is this going to be square? It doesn't seem sharp anymore. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, nah, this is a sharp spot. But if 80% are on Ottman and he loses, it's going to be square. So I'm kind of in two minds. Like, do I change my pick to the wrestler? Is the wrestler going to win this matchup? Let's be honest though, we all think Ottman's going to win because Matt Frevola's chin is just made of dust. It's made of glass. You know, if someone said to me Matt Frevola's dad is Misha Serkinov, I wouldn't say you're lying. I'd be like, that's probably true. That's probably true. You know what? I'm going to stay with my original prediction. I'm going to side with Azatair to win this matchup. But if he loses, remember I mentioned it, the public underdog, it kind of gets dusted. So we're going to see. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Andre Petroski taking on Wellington Turman. This matchup's going to be wrestler versus jiu-jitsu player. Petroski being the wrestler, Wellington being the jiu-jitsu player. Now Wellington has more experience, better jiu-jitsu, and arguably better Muay Thai. Whereas on the flip side, Petroski's got better wrestling and arguably more dangerous when it comes to trying to knock you out. You know, he's not classified as a boxer, but the dude certainly got power. You know, he's got heat and he's going to try to knock you out. And I'd also say that even though I believe Turman has better jiu-jitsu than Petroski, it's not that Petroski's got bad jiu-jitsu. The dude's jiu-jitsu is pretty good still. You know, the anaconda choke is my favourite jiu-jitsu technique. And you look at the way Petroski hit Nick Maximov with that anaconda, you know, quick, sharp, beautiful. So yeah, without a doubt, Petroski's jiu-jitsu is still pretty good. Guys, I've got a feeling that the underdog, Wellington Turman, at plus 175 is probably the better side. Right, it's probably going to be the sharper side. And I'm not saying that Wellington's like much better than Petroski, because you look at Petroski so far in the UFC, you know, he's been doing good. And that's essentially why the bookmaker has put Petroski as the favourite, right? I can understand that. But what I do disagree with is putting him this much of a favourite. You know, that's what I disagree with. I think it's potentially closer to a 50-50 matchup. And if I'm right and it does play out closer to a 50-50 fight, plus 175 is going to be the right side. So yeah, purely for that reason, I would have to side with the underdog, Wellington Turman, in this matchup. That's my pick. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Erin Blanchfield taking on Molly Mccann. Erin Nurmagomedov. Not that she really lived up to her name in her last matchup. You know, her grappling wasn't exactly on point in that fight against JJ Aldrich, but still got the win. By no means, though, did she perform to the implied chance. You know, she was a big, heavy favourite, and the fight was much closer. I think you could have got, like, Erin Blanchfield minus 120 after round 1, which would have been quite a sharp in-play bet. Now, despite her performance against JJ not being what most of us anticipated, we do still have to acknowledge that Erin Blanchfield is a top tier grappler. Guys, I really regard Miranda Maverick as like a really top level fighter, and Erin Blanchfield she ragdolled her. Dominated her. You know, Miranda Maverick was going back to her corner telling her team, look, I cannot stop the takedown. I cannot get back to the feet. Now guys, if Miranda Maverick is going back to her corner saying that, make no mistake, Molly Mccann is going to get ragdolled in this matchup. But I do want to mention one thing about Molly Mccann. This girl's in great form. Like, she's in really, really good form. You know, she's hitting girls with spinning back elbows. She's setting girls down with beautiful boxing combinations. Molly's in great form. I'd kind of say that Molly McCann's performing to the best of her ability, you know, performing the best she's ever performed. I don't think anyone would really disagree with that statement. So yeah, Molly Mccann is performing the best she's ever performed. And that's what's going to be impressive when Erin just ragdolls her. I'm not going to lie. Now guys, if Molly Mccann can negate the wrestling, right? If she can stay on the feet, obviously she's got a better chance than what the bookie's saying, obviously. However, I do believe Erin Blanchfield is the real deal. You know, Erin Nurmagomedov, she's going to ragdoll Molly Mccann. I really believe that. And if you said to me, like, is Molly Mccann even a good wrestler? I'd be like, her wrestling's not bad, but there's levels to the game. And Erin Nurmagomedov is just many, many levels better than Molly in the wrestling. Like many. So yeah, I've got to side with Erin Blanchfield to win this matchup. That's got to be my pick. We've got Dominic Reyes taking on Ryan Spann. Now, firstly, I'd like to start this breakdown by saying it's very, very sad to see what's happened to Dominic Reyes ever since he's fought John Jones. It's kind of sad. And I did predict John Jones to lose that fight. It's the only time I've picked against Bones Jones. Only time. And to be honest, guys, despite picking like a good underdog that night, it's a good underdog pick. I've got to be honest, Reyes did lose that fight. He did lose that fight. And some people get it twisted, like they see Reyes perform better than what they expected and they think he won the fight, but he didn't win the fight. He won round 1. He won round 2. Then he went on to lose the remaining 15 minutes of that fight. It's pretty clear to see. But yeah, anytime someone sees like a big underdog perform better than what they expected, they instantly think, oh, he won that fight. He didn't win that fight. Now guys, after losing to John, Reyes has essentially been dusted by both Jan Blachowicz and Jiri Prochazka. They've dusted him. Hey, that's what John Jones will do to your career. You know, he'll take something from you. You know, John, he'll do that. He's done that to many guys. Alexander Gustafsson. John Jones will do that. Now, on the flip side, you have to say that Ryan Spann has one of the best guillotine chokes in the game. You know, a really beautiful guillotine choke. Super dangerous. I'd also say that Ryan Spann, you know, his striking's pretty good. He can hurt anybody in the division. He can do that. But his cardio's not great. And he kind of becomes quite hittable, especially when he fatigues. You know, you can kind of put Ryan Spann on wobbly legs. You know, make him do an impersonation of Bambi. You can do that to Ryan Spann. Now, what do I think's going to happen with this matchup? Guys, I do kind of pray that Dominic Reyes can just get a win. I pray he can get a win. I think the left body kick, I hope it's effective. I think the left straight down the barrel, I hope it's there. I just hope that Dominic Reyes can get back to winning ways. You know, this guy was getting me paid early in his UFC career. You know, if he loses to Ryan Spann, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. The Jan Blachowicz loss is kind of acceptable. But if you lose to Ryan Spann, you know, Bambi. If you lose to this guy, I don't know. The career's not looking good. It's not looking good now, obviously. But yeah, I'm going to side with Dominic Reyes. I hope his weapons can be good to go on Saturday night. The left kick, the left straight. I hope it's good. Let's go Dominic Reyes. Moving into the final prelim, we've got Renato Moicano taking on Brad Riddell. Guys, this matchup is a great matchup. And by the way, the prelims on this card are arguably some of the best prelims we've seen this year. Now, guys, as we know, Renato Moicano has really, really good jiu-jitsu. Like, really good. I remember watching Moicano live in New York when he fought Calvin. He didn't use jiu-jitsu to win this fight. He used the calf kick, and it was super annoying because I had money on Calvin, and yeah, super annoying to see that over and over. Now guys, that fight was like 8 fights ago, and a lot has happened since then. He got completely dusted by Jose Aldo, completely dusted by the Korean Zombie, completely dusted by Fiziev, and my goodness, the beat down that RDA put on Moicano was just, it was kind of sickening. Now guys, has Moicano won a few fights in between? Yes, he has. Has most of those wins been by submission? Yes, they have. Pretty much all of those wins are by submission. Guys, I'd have to say though, if Moicano's not using his jiu-jitsu, he's basically getting dusted on the feet. Like, that's what we've seen. Now let's speak about Brad Riddell, the kid from Jumanji. Hey, you ain't fooling me, Brad. Now speaking about Brad Riddell, this guy's got excellent Muay Thai. Like, his striking's really good. I'd say his boxing is better than his kicking, but he can still do both, you know, excellent Muay Thai. Let's speak about Brad Riddell's whole UFC career. Against Jamie Mullarkey in his UFC debut, you know, he dusted Mullarkey but did get rocked at one point. Against Alex De Silva, won this fight but did lose round 1 purely because he got pushed against the fence, you know, grappled a little bit in that matchup. Against Drew Dober, man, this was a great fight. A really, really good fight. And he did beat Dober, but again, a bit of adversity, you know, kind of got rocked at one point. Lost to Fiziev, but Fiziev has, you know, excellent Muay Thai, so that's okay. And against Jalen Turner, kind of got flatlined, but Jalen Turner's big. You know, that's a big weight bully. So I kind of think it's fair to say that Brad Riddell has had a tough UFC career. You know, there isn't actually a clean performance. And that's kind of what gets you hype in the UFC, you know, when you go in there and have a super clean performance and the fans are like, wow, that looked easy. That's what gets you hype. And Brad Riddell hasn't really had that clean performance yet. Now, after speaking about both Moicano and Brad Riddell, I think, you know, making a prediction is kind of straightforward. You know, if the matchup's on the feet, it probably should be Brad Riddell in charge. And if Moicano takes Brad Riddell's back or takes him to the mat, he should probably submit Brad Riddell. So whoever fights their fight realistically should be the winner. I'm siding with Brad Riddell. Let's go. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's a triple amen, gang. Let's go. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda have finished this blunt. Like, in between breaking down fights, I was sparking up. I'm not gonna lie, that's not in the breakdown, but yeah, I've kinda finished the blunt. So even though I said, if you waited to smoke with me, I've kinda been smoking anyway, so yeah. Good game. You know what, let's just keep this smoke break legit. The Shailan Nordam-Becker and Darek Minner fight was extremely rigged. It was extremely rigged, and we know who did that. We know who did that. It's a real shame. You know, a real shame. I don't really want the sport to turn like boxing. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see that. And for anyone that thinks it wasn't rigged, like, if I could post on the screen right now the screenshots that I've been sent that are not available to the public, like this information that I've been sent, you would totally agree with me. You'd be like, yeah, that's rigged. You know, obviously I picked Shailan to win the fight, and I advised on my Patreon that double chance TKO or decision for Shailan at like plus 135, that was the value prop. Even though it like worked out for me and for other people, I just feel bad for the people that took a shot on Darek Minner because he had no intention of winning the fight. He rigged it. He bet on himself, and that's disgusting. You know, it's dirty, and we know who did it. We know who did that. Come on, we know who did that. James Krause, Darek Minner. Hey, they did that. I'm sorry. What do you want me to say? You want me to lie? I'm not gonna lie. It's just a bit sad. Alright, let's break down this main card. Let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Dan Hooker taking on Claudio Puelles. This is going to be striker versus jiu-jitsu. Dan Hooker being the experienced striker, Claudio being the high-level jiu-jitsu player. Guys, when we look at who has more experience, not only in the UFC, but just who's more experienced as a fighter, that's going to be Dan Hooker. When we look at who's fought better competition, obviously again, it's going to be Dan Hooker because he's got more experience in general. And obviously when we look at who's the better striker, again, it's going to be Dan Hooker. And I know some people are going to say like, Dan Hooker gets hit a lot, but against who? Against Dustin Poirier, against Arnold Allen, against Chandler, against Barboza, against Paul Felder. You know, all of these guys are some of the best strikers in the game. Now, despite Dan Hooker being more credentialed, Claudio does have something that absolutely could be a problem for Dan Hooker. And I feel like a lot of people already know what that is. It's going to be the jiu-jitsu, specifically the knee bar. The knee bar is so clean. It's so beautiful. It's super dangerous. I know we speak about like Charlie Oliveira being one of the best jiu-jitsu players in the UFC, and he is the best jiu-jitsu player, but Claudio's got arguably the best knee bar in the game. Like, it's super dangerous. However, guys, when you look at Claudio and who he's fought against, the resume is nowhere near the same. You know, he's beat 40-year-old Clay Guida, Dossa Chris Grutzmacher, one-dimensional BJJ player Jordan Levitt, Marcus Moriano, who's that? Felipe Silva, who's that? You know what I'm saying? There's a big difference with the resume. So yeah, make no mistake, if Claudio beats Dan Hooker, this is going to be the best win in his career, without a doubt. And I'm sure that Dan Hooker understands the opponent. I'm sure he understands that Claudio's looking to grab your leg. He's looking to attack that. You know what I'm saying? His jiu-jitsu's really, really high level. So again, just like the fight we broke down with Moicano and Brad Riddell, it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be striker or it's going to be jiu-jitsu. Now, I did side with Claudio against Guida and Grootsmacher. I did go against Dan Hooker with Arnold Allen, obviously. For me though, guys, I'm going to side with the experience of Dan Hooker. I think he's way more proven than Claudio at this point. And I'm not saying that Claudio can't submit Dan because he's got a chance, but I'm saying he's not proven. He's not proven it against elite competition at this point. And to be honest, guys, a lot of people spoke about Islam Makhachev not being proven when he fought a high-level black belt in Davi Ramos, a high-level black belt in Thiago Moises, a brilliant experienced boxer in Bobby Green, a brilliant veteran of the game in Drew Dober, Dan Hooker, super experienced. You know, all of these guys they're credentialed. I think if you really want to look at somebody who's unproven, it would have to be Claudio Puelles, right? Who's he really done it against? Old man Guida. It's not impressive. But if you need bar Dan Hooker, I'm willing to say that's impressive. I'm willing to give the credit then. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for me, I'm siding with Dan. I think he's more experienced, more proven. And if he avoids the mat, avoids the jiu-jitsu, probably should butcher Claudio on the feet. That's my pick. Moving into a matchup between Frankie Edgar taking on Chris Gutierrez. Guys, kicking the door, waving the 4-4. Hey, it's the OG's last fight in the UFC. Hey, if you're not sparking up for Frankie on the walkout, I don't know what to say. And obviously, if you don't smoke, you know, you got to take a shot. And if you don't drink, I don't know, make a sandwich. And if you don't eat carbs, I don't know, do a handstand. I don't know. Listen, Frankie Edgar, this guy's a legend. Does he have CTE? Probably. Probably does. Should Frankie Edgar even be making his way to the octagon? Probably not. No. However, Frankie Edgar is a legend. And if you don't appreciate this legend, you know, you should probably step on a piece of Lego or something like that. Now, Chris Gutierrez, this guy isn't a wrestler like Frankie. He's primarily a kicker. A really, really good calf kicker. You know, one of the best calf kickers in the game. You know, the calf kick's super effective and it's probably going to be a good weapon for Chris Gutierrez in this matchup. Essentially, though, if Frankie Edgar can't get the wrestling going, he most likely gets dusted in this fight. You know, he was 2 rounds up against Vera. And Chris Gutierrez also got wrestled early by Cody Durden. So when you put those two together, you know, you can kind of see a way for Frankie to win. However, I'm not going to make that pick. I just think there's too many negatives like damage, super old. And Chris Gutierrez is always really difficult to deal with. He's a really good striker, super flashy, great kicker. So for me, I'm going to side with Chris Gutierrez to beat the legend in his last fight. But if I'm wrong and Frankie can, you know, get a win on his last fight in New York, if I'm wrong and he can do that, hey, all the respect. I'm going to love that. And I feel like everyone else should love that. Even if you bet Chris Gutierrez and that ticket gets dusted by the wrestling, hey, that's fine. That's cool. So yeah, my pick, Chris Gutierrez. But this goes out to you, Frankie Edgar. You're a legend. Let's go. Moving into a matchup between Dustin Poirier taking on Michael Chandler. I cannot wait for this matchup. I cannot wait. You know, this matchup is without a doubt one of the best matchups on this card. Both of these fighters are just excellent, top tier fighters. Guys, looking at Dustin Poirier's record, looking at his resume, it's unbelievable. One of the most proven mixed martial artists to ever do it. You know, look at some of the names that Dustin Poirier has competed against. Not only competed against, but beaten. It's unbelievable. Now on the flip side, Michael Chandler, a former Bellator champion, basically looking to prove himself in the UFC. A beautiful stoppage in his debut against the Hangman. A beautiful stoppage against Tony Ferguson. But when we're looking at who's more proven, Without a doubt, it's Dustin Poirier. Now guys, despite being more proven, Chandler still has a decent chance, and so does Dustin Poirier. Now guys, looking at where Poirier may be better than Michael Chandler compared to where Michael Chandler may be better than Dustin Poirier, it's pretty obvious to me that Poirier is the better boxer. His boxing is super clean, super technical. He's proven that so many times. He is the better boxer. However, on the flip side, I'd say Michael Chandler is very, very explosive, super explosive. He's not as technical as Dustin Poirier in the boxing, but when you look at how explosive he is, no doubt he can cause problems for Dustin Poirier. Let me give you guys two examples. Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Lemos. Now, Marina Rodriguez is technically better than Amanda Lemos, but Amanda Lemos is just very explosive. Another example would be Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett. Now, Calvin is a better boxer, but Josh Emmett is just very explosive. So now and then you kind of get a technically better striker against a striker that's just very explosive. And even though you've got one guy who's better, the other guy can match him just because he's got heat. You know what I'm saying? That's Michael Chandler. I kind of think this matchup's just going to be pure fireworks. And if the matchup is going to be pure fireworks, I believe you have to go with the underdog. You know, if you're someone that agrees with me that this matchup could be entertaining, 50-50 fireworks, if you agree with me, how can you take over -200 on Dustin Poirier if you genuinely believe it's going to be a fireworks 50-50 type of fight? How can you do it? It's okay if you're siding with Dustin Poirier and you think it's going to be, you know, a one-sided fight. You think Dustin's going to dominate Chandler. I can understand that play. But if you think it's 50-50, how can you bet over -200? I think this matchup's going to be fireworks. And if it is, I think the underdog is the right side. That's going to be my pick. I'm taking Chandler. See you at the top. Alright, co-main event, we've got Carla Esparza taking on Weili Zhang. Let's start by saying Carla is easily one of the best wrestlers in the game. She's got a proven track record of being able to get the opponent to the mat. And I will say there's times where, you know, she kind of hits you with the lay and pray. Although that really wasn't the case against Yan. You know, Habib mode, Hamzat mode. Now guys, has Carla ever impressed you with her boxing? Has Carla ever impressed you with her kicking? Absolutely not. The girl is a wrestler and she sticks to what she's good at. You know, sticking to the opponent on the mat like glue. That's what she does. Now the opponent, Weili Zhang, is evidently a much better striker, a Sanda practitioner, which is Chinese kickboxing. So yeah, looking at who's the better striker in this matchup, no doubt, it's going to be Zhang. She's way better than Carla when it comes to striking. But all of us know that Carla is going to try to implement the same game plan that she's implemented time and time again. She's going to try to wrestle Weili Zhang. Now guys, looking back at Carla versus Rose, Rose was genuinely terrified at being taken to the mat by Carla. Now guys, is Weili Zhang going to be scared to let her strikes go the way Rose was scared? I don't think so. The champion is Carla Esparza. The champion is one-dimensional. I think Zhang is going to just piece Carla up. I think she's going to dust her. And if I'm wrong with my prediction, we probably watched a 25-minute fight of Carla just sniffing Zhang's armpit on the mat, which is going to be quite depressing. So yeah, hopefully Zhang doesn't get stuck on the mat. I don't think she will. I think she's going to dust Carla Esparza and become the new champion. That's my pick. Alright, the main event, we've got Israel Adesanya taking on Alex Pereira. Champion versus challenger. Champion versus former enemy. Revenge or repeat. My goodness, I cannot wait. Now guys, as we know, Israel Adesanya is one of the best strikers to ever grace the octagon. His range management is excellent. His kicking ability, excellent. He can fight from both stances to keep you guessing. He's one of the most calculated strikers we've ever seen. Now what makes this fight so intriguing is Alex Pereira has already beaten Adesanya 2 times in kickboxing. That's the big curveball with this matchup. Not only beat Adesanya, but in the second fight sent him to Shadow City. Nasty. Dusted. Now guys, this isn't kickboxing. this is mixed martial arts. And I know some people are going to say, well, it doesn't really matter because they're both kickboxers and it's not like they're going to grapple, so it really doesn't matter. And I'd kinda agree with that statement, kinda. But there's going to be two things that make me not fully agree with the statement, and I'm going to let you know what those two things are. Firstly, you're inside an octagon, right? As Teddy Atlas would say, the best fighters are the ones that understand the geography of the ring, or in this case, the octagon, right? Alex Pereira has fought inside an octagon like a handful of times, whereas Adesanya's been here like 15, 16 times. Israel Adesanya understands the geography of the octagon much better than Alex Pereira. That's the first thing. And the second thing is going to be the gloves are much smaller, right? Which completely changes the fight. The gloves are smaller, and when you're putting your guard up to shield punches, it's different when the glove is not as big as what it is in kickboxing. So yeah, although these guys are going to kickbox, you have to understand the geography is different and the gloves are different. And both of those things do side with the champion Israel Adesanya. Now guys, despite those advantages for Adesanya, let's still ask the questions that we need to ask for this matchup. Does Alex Pereira possess the striking ability to beat Adesanya again? Yes, he does. Is Alex Pereira's lead hook one of the best lead hooks in combat? It really is. Can Pereira go kick for kick with Adesanya the way nobody else has been able to go kick for kick? Yes, he can. Is Alex Pereira the best striker Adesanya would have fought against in the UFC? Yes, he is. If Alex Pereira has already starched Adesanya, can he do it again? Yes, he can. Guys, it's a great main event. I'm sure that most people would agree with all of the answers that I had for those questions. I do believe it's going to be Adesanya's biggest test to date, purely because Pereira is the best striker to challenge Israel Adesanya. And guys, I don't really want to admit it, but I wouldn't be shocked if Pereira did it. I really wouldn't. You know, he's that good. He's that good, man. I wouldn't be shocked. Having said all of that, guys, you put the gun to my head and I've got to make a pick. And still, player one, and still the middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya. I just think that if Pereira's going to do it, it's going to look something like what Leon Edwards done to Usman. It's going to be that shocking. It's not going to be a submission. It's not going to be a decision. It's going to look like what Leon done to Usman. It's going to look like that. There's a chance. You know, there is a chance, but yeah, player one. I'm taking player one. I'm taking Izzy. Let's go. Alright guys, drop down your Money City plays. As always, eyes to the sky, never glued to the shoes. That's Mac Miller. Alright, peace.